Um, so people wonder why construction guy is here, but so I have 10 years working in construction. I work for a $5 billion company. We're worldwide, build numerous jobs. We're building two of the largest jobs in Wisconsin right now. We just finished Northwest Mutual Tower in Milwaukee, and we're building Hill Farms by the DOT here in Madison. So 10 years ago, I convinced someone to hire me in construction because, long story short, my wife moved to Milwaukee, and I just graduated from UW Stout and was looking for game development, but there really wasn't much in the Milwaukee area 10 years ago. So the team that I built mostly is all from Stout. I've looked all over the country for game development majors and multimedia majors, but UW Stout has such a great program where you're pretty much like a semester away from a double major because you learn so much of the background of traditional art plus design, plus graphic design, plus multimedia. So it really forms well and builds a better artist, I think. You know, instead of going to, like I've looked at a lot of AI schools where you're kind of pigeonholed down one avenue or one path. It's a well-rounded artist, what we're looking for, because the way I run my group is each person is in charge of a job. So say I get a hospital in one day or a arena in one day, you from the start to the finish, you'll model it and then take it all the way through the production side. So it just kind of gives each person kind of this ownership of the job instead of, you know, I was just at Epic Games in North Carolina a couple of weeks ago and talking to some of their guys, and like one guy was working on a character for 3 years. You know, it's like the variety of things that you can do with our company, I think is actually what keeps a lot of the kids with us. So I'll go through this quick, and you guys can ask questions. You know, kind of just talking here. So I'm in charge of bringing new technology into a very conservative industry. It's a high money industry and it's high safety, but we're always looking for trying to cut corners with money. You know, always trying to cut savings. So we're using technology like data capture with drones, laser scanning, Matterport scanners, using AR, VR. You know, really, it's something that 10 years ago, I don't think the industry would even thought about doing. And we've kind of, you know, truly disrupted the industry, and it's spreading now, because some of my employees now that have been with me for 10 years or with me at some point over the last 10 years are spreading out, and actually one of them presented today for another competitor. So it's cool to see that it's finally starting to trickle down into the industry. So this is kind of, I like to show this is like average day at our office. I don't know if you guys, I think Bel Air just opened a place here, but it's pretty much tacos and cases of Mountain Dew they go through. But the thing that I really talked to our upper management about, why I want to hire more game designers, is just the way they think. And it's just a totally different way of thinking than what's been in construction for many, many years. You know, most of the time you're dealing with engineers that, you know, we tried bringing in called virtual design engineers out of Madison to be in our group, but they wanted to model things down to the detail of what kind of knob is on the door or what kind of hinge is on it. It's like, okay, we have a deadline in 2 weeks, we need to have this done. You know, don't worry about that, just make it a knob, you know. So, I mean, they come out of school now with such strong ability in like community and discovery. So it's really turning the industry on its head. So just quickly how we got to this in construction. And really, most of you guys know most of the front end of this. I mean, the cool thing was my great-grandma had a stereoscope viewer. It's an old wooden, I mean, it looks like an Oculus Rift, but it's made out of wood that you slide. So my grandma was doing VR back in the mid-1800s. So it's kind of my blood. But the biggest thing for our industry was HKS took a deal with Epic Games to build Jerry Jones' stadium. He wanted to be able to walk through the entire stadium, see all the vantage points, all in real time. So they signed, back then, HKS signed a deal with Epic for $1 million a year for licensing. And then, as everyone knows, now in the last few years, Epic is like free. So it's Unreal Game Engine is free. So it's pretty crazy to see, just from 2007, how it's changed. So I think everyone knows this, right? So the traditional way we used to render things out with the render farm, we had a big box, technologies render farm in our closet, and it's pretty much a paperweight now. But we used to take things, build it in, it's called Revit, it's like a 3D CAD, then put it into Maya, clean it up. We have a partnership with Autodesk, so we were able to create custom UI. And then, because the geometry that you get from CAD or Revit is worse than SketchUp, so it's, we clean it probably about 70% through the middle process, then we start UV mapping, texturing, lighting, all that stuff. Then we carried it over, and then we throw it on the render farm. And then, you know, about 8 years ago, I noticed my employees doing a lot of this, right? So it's like waiting, 12 hours, 3 days, 4 days, you know, for a minute of animation. So really, the game engines have helped our industry and helped my group. I mean, we're saving days upon days on rendering, plus the ability to program and do, you know, what a game engine is made to do. So now our process is this. So we start with Revit from Autodesk, go into Maya, and then go into the Unreal Engine. So it's been a kind of a, the last couple of years have been kind of turbulent with management because this construction industry is now using video game engines. I'm like, well, we have actually been building video game models for over 10 years, so it's nothing new, but now we're just using the real-time ability of it. So the one thing that we really wanted to make sure is before kind of my proving case for using game engine technology, this was before it was free, so they're like the subscription service with Unreal. I wanted to make sure that what we showed kind of gave the confidence to the owner in VR what they were going to get after we built it. So the top one is Unreal and the bottom is photography after we built it. So it was kind of a proving case to my company that this is actually a reality, that we can save money and make decisions faster in the industry. So a lot of people like ask, what do you do like with this technology in construction? So a lot of it is virtual mock-up or educational gaming. So we're teaching things like this trailer is actually in one of our jobs in Mexico, and we're showing them a demo of a safety game that we created to help them communicate to their employees how we think about safety here in the States. You know, there's no better way of teaching someone something than actually doing it. So it's really been in a kind of an awesome kind of progression of where we can use this technology. So I'm going to just go through a couple of videos quick just to show kind of how we're using it and what we're doing with it. So our typical thing that we do day to day is build sequences or 4D animation with time. So we'll show how that building is going to be built, but now with the power of the game engines and how we use it, we're able to take them also inside quickly. So this is all built through that same process with Revit, Maya, then Unreal. So it just helps everyone with decision making and how much money we save on time. You know, we're able to take them into a photoreal environment. This one, we're able to put the judge in his seat with an Oculus Rift, and you can see the environment and kind of viewing angles. And then also they wanted to walk paths for like the convicts, so they were away from the jury kind of thing. So we were able to walk them through this, you know, and with the time savings compared to the old traditional render farm, we can turn things around like this in a few days now. So the biggest markets that we're getting hit with right now are healthcare. Residential are the two biggest VR users in the country right now. You know, it makes sense because healthcare has been using kind of a VR simulation for a long time, but now they're able to even quicker. We're at this one, I was sitting next to the doctors, like anesthesiologist, the architect, and they were moving things around in kind of a CAD format while I was moving it around in the game engine. Then we were able to put the doctor at the table, and then he was able to go and kind of walk through the environment, see if the booms kind of collided or what kind of the collisions that would happen above ceiling if we had to move some of those booms. So just, once again, just save everyone so much time and money, because typically what we would do in construction is build this into a physical mock-up, which could be, you know, $50,000 to $250,000, depending on how detailed you want to get. Now we're able to do it virtually, give them kind of the feel of if things, things are going to work or not. Then if they want to, they can build a physical mock-up but it's just one instead of doing multiple. So we're saving the owner money, which they love. This is the huge one that we're doing that's getting more and more popular. This is a residential condo in Chicago. And using some of the templates that we were given from Unreal, we're able to go through in VR and virtually swap out and design your apartment. So instead of having like a physical showroom that you walk into and say, oh, I want, you have all these material boards and stuff like that. Now you can virtually kind of in a one-to-one scale go through and design your entire space. So we're kind of breaking the mold of, it's still a game environment, but we're using it in different ways. Things I never thought I'd be doing after I graduated, that's for sure. But I'm using some of my inspiration. We were building a prison in Illinois, and they asked about camera angles. So the first thing I thought of was the game Manhunt. I don't know if you guys played that. But so we actually brought in the specs from the camera itself, put it into the Unreal camera, and now you're able to see kind of any blind spots throughout the facility. So the cool thing was to see the electrical engineer grab one of these cameras, you get a thumbnail, he was able to move it around, then play the game and see where that camera's gonna see. So we've used this a lot for this, also kind of higher risk schools. So they're able to kind of make sure that before they pay for all the camera and electrical work, that it's all taken care of. And then, just for ease of use, be able to, I also have a programmer in my group for Apple, and he does a lot of he's a developer for Apple, and we've done more and more of this. He's doing ARKit now, but it's just the ease of different kind of value streams of communication throughout the industry. So we're able to take, that one model and kind of adjust or kind of mold ourselves to whatever the client wants. So some of the new stuff that we're doing with photogrammetry in the game engine. So this is called things like LiDAR scanning. So we're able to scan with a camera. So this was done in the morning, then I was able to take that, put it into the game engine with the geometry laid over, and then we're able to take and then start designing. So using the editor in Unreal, put the person into the VR editor and be able to start moving furniture around so they can redesign their space. So pretty much this was one day of work because the camera captured most of the geometry for us, which is getting better and better. So another thing in Milwaukee, the city hall is actually sinking. So we're actually working underground to reinforce the footings that redistribute the weight of the old, these things are on, it's like 4,000 timber piles, and those piles are rotting. So we're going in and reinforcing that. So with that scanning and the 3D geometry, we're able to take and use it for an animation piece to communicate out what the tax dollars are being used for. Also, we're tinkering around with how we can drive a Bobcat through after the new footings are done. So you could do it in here, and then you go into like a VR mode, so you're driving the Bobcat around. Some other ways we're doing it is just kind of reassurance or rechecking stuff. So the laser scan has been around for a long time, but it creates just horrible, giant gigabytes of data. So it's all X, Y, and Z points with RGBs attached to it, and it's pretty much unusable. And so we wanted to see what we could do with an iPhone and how close it would be. So this is just back checking our data using the game engine and overlaying it, and then be able to, when you turn it on, like the dark red areas, or the white areas, I should say, are the areas that it didn't capture close, and the red is the accuracy. So using some of the blueprinting in Unreal, we're able to kind of compare the two. So just quickly, this is just a kind of a work in progress. We update this all the time. I think I mentioned before, we're on pace to do about 120 VR models this year. So everything from, this is just about flooring selections. So big, small, doesn't matter to us. It's just having that power of kind of the gamer in our group and in the industry has changed everyone's way of thinking, which is good for everyone. You know, it saves everyone time and money, plus now we have a great place for people that don't get hired by AAA industry leaders. They can work in construction. So it just shows a wide variety of things that we work on. Yeah, there's, once again, there's a Supreme Court in Atlanta that we did to be able to put all the judges in their seat with VR before the design was built. So we're being used more and more throughout the industry in different areas. Like I said, healthcare and residential were the big ones, but now we're spreading out. There was music. I could sing, I guess. And, this is showing kind of safety concerns for kind of employees, how they get to the job. You know, theaters. It's pretty much, I mean, my bosses always want us to be specific, just the way they think and how they try to container everything. Like you have to be a healthcare expert, or you have to be, and it's taken me years to explain to them that we're 3D modeling experts. You know, it doesn't matter if it's a hospital or arena, we build geometry. You know, so it's, they just can't get past that thinking. You know, the fun thing about doing stuff like this too is, this is training, medical college. We made the eyes so they follow you around in VR, just to, you know, add a creep factor. But it's fun to be able to just hide Easter eggs in there. I did Cameron indoor basketball for Duke, and I hid North Carolina logos underneath all the chairs, because I'm a Tar Heel fan. So, but Coach K didn't see that, thank God. But you know, another benefit of having game designers in our group is we were asked to present or kind of exhibit what we do day to day for the Children's Museum in Milwaukee, the Discovery World. So they have a big sci-fi day. The 501st comes. It's a big thing. And so in 4 days, 3 of us put this together. You know, the coolest thing with VR, right, is to be able to put someone somewhere, anytime, any place, right? So it's to be able to walk these kids through Seraph. We told them that you have to deliver the plans of the tower. Play. Uh-oh. No QuickTime on the computer. But what we did is, you know, it was actually interesting because, you know, we built this up in like 3 or 4 days, and we were like, oh, it's beautiful, you know, what we did in 3 or 4 days. But the kids would put the Oculus on, and they would just run straight there. Like, we even had it where the AT-ATs would look at you and follow you and shoot at you and stuff like that. But they just wanted to run straight to the end goal, right? They just wanted to win. But they didn't know we didn't put a door there. So up in the sky is the Death Star, and every kid died. So my wife asked how my day went. I said I killed 250 kids. So, but it was just fun to do, and you know, using the, kind of the power, and also just kind of get out of the norm. So it's fun to do stuff like this on the side. It's unfortunate that there's no QuickTime in here. But any questions? It's definitely something when I graduated from Stout that I never thought in a million years that I would be doing. There's 3 architects in my family, so I've kind of grew up around architecture. But when I kind of started thinking about it, it's just really you're building game environments. You know, it's just more specific to architecture and construction. So it's a fun kind of alternate that you could do, and it pays the bills. Yeah.
So were you the one who introduced a lot of these like kind of brand new ways of making these things to your company?
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's starting to trickle down through the industry. Like, so it's a very competitive industry. I mean, it's big dollars, very, very competitive. So And the one thing that it's fun for me to go to conferences, especially in construction, is knowing that there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in marketing from other companies. Like, oh, hey, we're doing VR, or we're doing augmented reality, or, you know, they'll say we're doing VR, then they put up a picture of a panoramic for gear. I'm like, that's not VR, that's just a panoramic rendering, you know. But there's a lot of that going on where it's kind of more of a marketing purpose. But now that we've kind of come out behind the curtain a little bit in the last 5 years, now our competitors are starting to hire more gamers. So it's good for everyone. That just creates another avenue of hiring and options for kids out of school. Yep.
So some of your examples of the walkthroughs were about enabling the user to choose options.
Yep.
For like where they want furniture or the flooring, which is about material types.
Yep.
Do you also design with any audio or like there's not tactile, or there is tactile
Yep.
software, but spaces will feel different based on
Oh,
the
yeah.
audio they're hearing. So like
Yep.
if it's a hardwood floor or if it's a carpet or if it's the wall is this way versus not that, or like it's not there, like do you implement any audio in all of these things?
Yeah, for flooring especially. So we attached sound to the floor material. So if it's a hardwood floor and you're moving through with the Xbox controller, it sounds like you're walking on hardwood floors or tiles. And then it's kind of muffled with, and then like the kids' room that showed there, we put like just like kids' music kind of, because you want to give them a full experience and the kind of the ambiance of, you know, having that space, because you know, it's the more immersive, I guess, that you can make things, the more or the quicker that they make decisions.
Right.
So,
I guess I would have just liked to see some of those because all of yours were just video, no people in them,
right.
no audio. So
And actually, putting people in VR is scary.
yeah.
It is very scary. We had AI people walking through a business place, and you know, they're rigged on a loop through walking through, and like a lady was walking through, and all of a sudden a guy comes walking through the door, like right in her face, you know. So because we didn't have a time for, you know, like if you were in this area, this loop started, or but we just had an overall loop of the building. But yeah, most of the feedback we got is people thought that it was uncomfortable.
Yeah. I like in the judge room and like the courtroom,
Yep.
like that space is gonna feel so different with every seat filled or something, you know.
Right, and that's like the architects do a lot of that with the like acoustical, even though like a theater, because things sound different with more people in it, right?
Right.
So it's a lot of that stuff is taken care of by the architects.
Okay, so they do that.
Yep, yep,
Yeah, I guess
Yep.
going on with her question of the audio, like she's talking about the simulating actual audio echoing in the rooms,
Yep.
or actual real simulation, like making sure that the kids' music playing in the bedroom, you can't hear it in the living room.
right, yep. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy in Unreal to create sound kind of objects where you can have like you know, if you're out in the balcony, you hear birds singing, but you don't hear those birds if the door's closed, kind of thing. It's pretty easy to put that in
So
there.
like if you took a wall and angle it, she said angle it
Yeah,
this
for
way.
acoustics.
Yeah, acoustics.
Yeah, that's usually taken care of with the architect or sound designer, which we could do. I mean, but yeah, it'd be something to look into for us. Let's see if what kind of feedback we would get.
So is that one reason why you kind of chose Unreal, because it has a really good lighting model and stuff like that?
Yeah, and just most of my group, I was playing with SDK many years ago, I think 2006. So I kind of forced it upon them. Yeah, we use Unity for like HoloLens, just because that's really the only way to go with that right now. But AR is not there yet, so it's. I've tried to talk people into AR is great at handling data, where it's more of kind of an extended interface. So we're looking at different ways of, we call it facility management. So say you're in charge of a facility and the air conditioner filter needs to be changed, or something goes out, a red light comes on in a server, you walk over and with the AR you can kind of touch it and go through it and then order right there. I mean, people are trying to say that they're using AR and geometry, but it's like looking through a tube of a paper towel. So it's not there yet. Magic Leap's supposed to come out sometime. Yep.
What does your team look like, as,
Gilbane? So we have 5 multimedia game designers, and then we have 2 programmers and production side. So one of the programmers actually did, so he's more HTML and C++, and then he also did videography in school. So he's got a great background of kind of doing the whole end product. Plus then he does like the beta testing for like AR kit and stuff like that. So it's well diverse, and then really because of the size of our group, you kind of need to be a Swiss Army knife. So you know, if you're not working on VR, you might be doing you know, marketing or something like that. So any more questions? Yep.
Yeah, there's a new VR stuff that's coming out that's basically fully spatial, that you can walk around.
Yep.
It's something you guys are looking into.
Yeah, we have a media studio in Milwaukee where, like that OR space, we have a 15 by 15 foot area with, we use the Oculus with the 3 camera setup that we have permanently kind of hung, so we can bring a client in and walk them around with a tethered Oculus.
Soon they have the ones that need cameras for. They're all-
Right, yeah, that'd be nice. And wireless would be nice too. Any other questions? All right, thanks. I know it's the end of a long day, so thanks for learning about construction.